Hey everybody, it's hwsteele, and today is February 8th, 2020, and in this video I'm going to talk a little bit about Tesla. I've been asked about it by a few people actually, what I thought Tesla was going to do, and instead of answering outright, I thought I would go ahead and do this video, which is going to consist of my pointing a few things out and then asking you a couple questions. So here's the thing, Tesla's just been absolutely on fire. It's had a previous all-time high of a little shy of $400 a share, and then it made it all the way down early, mid 2019 to under $200 a share, and then just kind of went back and forth for a while. And then back in October, right here, it started really moving up, had a bit of a retracement, and then just has gone to absolutely new highs, just one after the other. Just January specifically of 2020 has been absolutely just incredible for this stock's price. So I wanted to point something out to you in the history of Tesla's stock. Let's zoom out here so we see the full history. Tesla's IPO was way back in late June of 2010, and then basically just kind of moved around where it had an all-time high in the neighborhood of $40 a share. Then long about not quite 7 years ago, the stock started to advance very rapidly, and then it just kind of went parabolic there, sort of like it did in January. Not quite exactly 7 years, because this is May. It did this in May of 2013, but I find it very interesting that the previous all-time high for the stock was right around $40 a share, which is 1/10 of the all-time high that we had around here, which is actually like $390 or so back in 2017. Then 2018 we came against that price again. Then of course we moved down like I talked about in 19, and then we came up and just shot through the roof right there. So at 10 times the $40 mark, we seem to have roughly the same behavior about 7 years later. Now the interesting thing is, when we broke to new all-time highs here, our first big top was right here before we had any kind of real retracement, and the high of that price, or the high of that move up there, was just over $97 a share, which if we multiply that by 10, we're going to see that, excuse me, we're just shy of that with this spike up in price also. Now we've gotten a retracement. So we see that Tesla's price is repeating itself. Just under 7 years ago, the same thing happened, but at 1/10 the level it's happening at now, essentially. So my question to you is, are we going to see, because we made a high here of $97 a share, but then we continued up for a few more months before we had a much larger retracement, and we almost doubled that. We essentially doubled that $97 a share. So are we going to see that again now? That's my question to you. Now, we can't look at bigger cycles in Tesla really, because we don't have the price data to do so. But we can look at other, like the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and kind of gauge from that the bigger cycles. So my question to you is, obviously the one I've already asked you, do you think that we're going to continue to move up for the 7-year cycle? Because the 7-year cycle seems to be indicating up, right? Well, what about the 10 or 20-year cycle? That obviously we don't have the data for, but the general market, if we remember, the bottom in the Dow and the S&P 500 was in early 2009, and we've been moving up now for almost 11 years in the general market, and we're getting very close, in my opinion, to a rather large top, a multi-year top in these markets, the general market, the Dow Jones and the S&P 500. So the pressure from the general market, in my opinion, is going to pretty soon start to push down. So basically what I'm saying is the longer cycles seem to be pointing down, while the 7-year cycle seems to be pointing up. So what do you think the outcome is going to be? I'm very interested in hearing your opinions on that. In the comments, you can just say them really quickly. You don't have to go into any kind of big detail. But a couple of things to point out is, even though we're repeating at the scale of 10 to 1, we had a much smaller retracement here, percentage-wise of price, than we've had already right here. So in other words, right now we're retracing as a percentage much higher. Plus the fact that we didn't quite get to the 10 times level. The price, the all-time high price over here was right at $40 a share, and the all-time price here was a little under $400 a share. We actually hit $97 right here. We didn't quite hit $970 right here. So it's not following at exactly 10 to 1. So is that a sign of weakness or just a ratio that's slightly smaller than 10 to 1? The percentage retracement is significantly larger, so that's an indication of weakness, in my opinion. What about your opinion? One thing I will point out is that when the market hit $19 was the original IPO price of this stock. When the market hit 50 times $19 or $950, it collapsed. This is the daily chart right here. If we go to the hourly chart, we see that $950 is right up here. It closed above it for 1 hour, and then it just collapsed after that. It hit that price level and just, actually, let me go down to the 5-minute chart. Where are we at? Here we go. So here is $950. So we were above that for what, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes, 35 minutes before we collapsed. That was a nice trade, by the way. I've done other videos where I showed multiples of IPO prices and how that can be used as trigger points. And Tesla is not disappointing on that level. Not now. But anyway, until next time, this is hwsteele, and I'll talk to you later.